The conflict between Israel and Palestine has been one of the world's most enduring and painful geopolitical disputes. In January 2025, the world witnessed a moment of respite as a historic ceasefire agreement was signed, bringing an end to 15 months of relentless violence that claimed thousands of lives and displaced countless families. The accord, brokered by Qatar, Egypt, and the United States, marks a critical juncture in a conflict that has shaped the region's narrative for decades. The road to ceasefire, the negotiations leading to the ceasefire were anything but simple. Over months, mediators shuttled between the parties, navigating a minefield of distrust, political pressures, and humanitarian concerns. The immediate catalyst for the talks was the intensifying humanitarian crisis in Gaza, where the violence had left infrastructure in ruins and families struggling to access basic necessities. The international community recognized the urgent need to act as the scale of suffering grew beyond comprehension. Qatar and Egypt played pivotal roles in mediating between Hamas, the governing authority in Gaza, and the Israeli government. The United States, under President Joe Biden's administration, provided diplomatic weight, ensuring the talks remained focused and productive. The negotiations were marked by high-stakes diplomacy, culminating in a multi-phased agreement that both sides reluctantly accepted as a step toward de-escalation. The key provisions, the ceasefire agreement, hailed as a milestone by international observers, is structured in phases to ensure gradual implementation and build trust between the warring factions. Immediate cessation of hostilities, both parties agreed to halt all offensive operations. This includes stopping airstrikes, rocket attacks, and ground incursions, effective January 19, 2025. The cessation of violence was marked by a public announcement from both sides, signaling their commitment to the terms. Gradual withdrawal of forces. Israeli forces stationed in Gaza began a phased withdrawal, reducing their presence to create a conducive environment for peacebuilding. This step also aimed to address the long-standing grievances of the Palestinian population regarding the presence of military forces. Hostage and prisoner exchange. One of the most significant provisions involved the exchange of hostages held by Hamas and Palestinian prisoners in Israeli custody. In the first phase, 33 Israeli hostages were set to be released in exchange for over 100 Palestinian detainees, signaling a gesture of goodwill. The process, though contentious, was seen as a crucial step in fostering mutual trust. Humanitarian aid. The agreement allowed for an increase in humanitarian assistance to Gaza, enabling international agencies to address urgent needs such as medical supplies, food distribution, and rebuilding critical infrastructure. This included the opening of humanitarian corridors to ensure aid reached the most vulnerable populations. Monitoring mechanism. To ensure compliance, an international monitoring committee comprising representatives from Qatar, Egypt, and the United Nations was established. This body was tasked with reporting on adherence to the agreement and mediating disputes that might arise during its implementation. Reactions from the ground. The ceasefire announcement was met with a mix of relief and skepticism. In Gaza, families celebrated the prospect of peace, albeit cautiously. For many, the wounds of the conflict run deep, and the fear of renewed violence lingers. Streets that once echoed with the sounds of bombings now saw children tentatively returning to play, a poignant reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. In Israel, the agreement was met with polarized reactions. While some welcomed the halt in hostilities, others criticized the prisoner exchange, seeing it as a painful concession. For many Israelis, the memories of rocket attacks and the constant threat to civilian lives remain vivid. Underscoring the fragile nature of the peace, international response, world leaders commended the agreement as a breakthrough in a region that has seen countless failed peace efforts. President Joe Biden attributed the success to relentless diplomacy, stating, "This ceasefire is a testament to the power of dialogue and the commitment to saving lives." The European Union and the United Nations echoed similar sentiments, pledging support for reconstruction efforts in Gaza. Meanwhile, regional powers such as Saudi Arabia and Turkey voiced cautious optimism, urging both sides to seize the moment to work toward a lasting resolution. The human cost of conflict. The 15 months preceding the ceasefire were marked by unprecedented suffering. In Gaza, hospitals overflowed with casualties, and families were torn apart by the relentless airstrikes and ground offensives. Entire neighborhoods were reduced to rubble, leaving thousands homeless. The psychological toll, especially on children, has been immense, with reports of widespread trauma and anxiety. On the Israeli side, the constant barrage of rockets created an atmosphere of fear and insecurity. Civilians in border towns lived under the shadow of sirens and bomb shelters, their lives disrupted at every turn. The economic impact was equally devastating, with businesses shuttered and daily life brought to a standstill. The role of regional and global stakeholders. The success of the ceasefire has highlighted the importance of international and regional cooperation. Egypt and Qatar's active involvement underscored their commitment to stabilizing the region, while the United States' diplomatic efforts reinforced its influence in Middle Eastern affairs. Meanwhile, the European Union's pledge of financial aid for reconstruction has been welcomed as a much-needed boost to rebuild Gaza's infrastructure. Other stakeholders, such as Turkey and Jordan, have expressed their readiness to support further negotiations, emphasizing the importance of addressing long-standing issues like border controls and the status of Jerusalem. Neighboring Lebanon and Syria, which have also been affected by the conflict's ripple effects, see the ceasefire as a chance to de-escalate broader regional tensions. Challenges ahead. While the ceasefire is a step forward, significant challenges remain. Both parties harbor deep-seated grievances, and the potential for violations is high. The rebuilding of Gaza will require substantial international funding and cooperation, while political reconciliation within Palestine and between Palestine and Israel is crucial for lasting peace. Issues such as the blockade of Gaza, the status of Jerusalem, and the broader question of Palestinian statehood remain unresolved and are likely to resurface as contentious points in future negotiations. The role of extremist factions on both sides also poses a significant challenge. Ensuring that these groups do not undermine the fragile peace will require vigilance and proactive measures by both governments and international mediators. A glimmer of hope. The 2025 ceasefire is not just an agreement to halt violence, it is a rare opportunity to reimagine a future of coexistence. For the families who have lost loved ones, the ceasefire offers a chance to grieve and rebuild. For the children who have known nothing but conflict, it holds the promise of a different life, one where they can dream of a future without fear. As the world watches, the hope is that this fragile peace will pave the way for more comprehensive solutions to a conflict that has defined generations. For now, the ceasefire offers a much-needed respite for the people of Israel and Palestine, a chance to heal, rebuild, and dream of a better tomorrow.